It was a good year for board games. In fact, it's the first time since 2019 where I found enough good games to make a top 10. I played 83 games released in 2022, and these are my top 10 board games of the year. If you want to buy any of them, there are links below. Trekking Through History is this year's best new gateway game, and such a great introduction that I'm actually angry at the newbies who get this as their first board game. Back in my day, you'd just get a grey box full of sand, and the shopkeeper would punch you in the face, and you'd thank him for his service. I mean, look at this box. Colours like this just didn't exist 10 years ago. It's got an interesting theme. You're time travelling through history as an obnoxious time tourist, turning up to sculpt with Michelangelo or write a play with William Shakespeare. I'd tell him to change it to All the World's a Game and all the men and women merely players. Makes more sense. And it's dead simple. Every turn you choose a card from the board representing a cool moment in history and add it to your trek. It's a family-friendly take on the past. You can ride with Genghis Khan, but you don't get to see him at the coalface. You're trying to create the perfect timeline by taking cards in chronological order, because you get huge points for a trek of 10 or more cards. As soon as you travel back in time, your trek is finished and you have to start again. But you also need to take certain cards to collect the resources to complete your personal itinerary. So every card you take is a compromise for one or the other. Plus, witnessing history takes time, and each card moves you around the clock. This is one of the neat modern touches of the game, because you don't take turns in order. The next player is the person furthest back on the clock. It's a mechanism you might know from Patchwork, and it gives you the chance to make clever moves, like taking 2 turns in a row to get the cards you really want. It's a little more insular than I'd like. It's a personal puzzle, but a remarkably satisfying one. And it still manages to get you talking by having a theme that everyone can enjoy as you read more about the history on the backs of the cards. I would call Sea Salt and Paper a dark horse. And the reason I say that is because I don't want to say that a game about the sea has hidden depths. On the surface, at first glance, there's not much going on. You draw a card every turn, and you're trying to get matching pairs and collect sets of shells and penguins to get points. But within each simple move is an interesting decision. When you take a card, you can choose from 2 face-up cards, or you can take 2 cards from the top of the deck and pick one. Everyone loves a mystery box. A boat's a boat, but a mystery box could be anything. It could even be a boat. But by taking 2, the one you don't pick will now be a new exciting option for your opponents. With the basic cards, if you collect a pair of symbols, you can play them to score 1 point. And you also get to take its action, which gets you more cards. And that usually means more points. Each round is a race to 7 points, but only if that's when you want to get off the ride. If you have 7 points amongst the cards in your hand and in front of you, you can stop the round immediately and take those points. Or you can carry on to try and get more, because whatever you score will add to your total to win the game. Or you can gamble on a last chance. You give the other players 1 more turn, betting that you'll have more points than them. And if you're right, you score an extra bonus. It's the ultimate brag. You're not just saying, I'm better than you. You're saying, you can have another turn and you still won't catch me. Of course, if they do, then you look really stupid. It's such a cool original mechanism. You can't see all the cards your opponent is taking, so you don't know if you're ahead of them. I always love a final reveal in a game. And this is even better because it has an epilogue where the underdogs get 1 last shot at taking down Goliath. Luck plays a part, but I love that you can react to that. If you think you're not going to win a round, then focus on collecting 1 color so you get a good color bonus. You've lost the battle, but you can at least take home some grenades to help you win the war. And if another player is dragging a round out, don't try to catch up, just cut the cord as soon as possible so their big finish isn't quite so big. It reminds me of Reiner Knizia's Llama, in that some people will dismiss it after 1 play as being too lucky, but if you give it a chance, there's treasure to be found. Just like in the sea. 50% of board gamers love trick-taking card games because they used to play them for hours with their favorite grandma, bathing in familial love. Well, I didn't have any of that, so I see trick-taking games for what they really are, with an objective bitterness that you won't get with other review channels. Every year, 50 new trick-taking games are released, each advertising a twist to the format, with the confidence of someone writing a recipe for mashed potato because they've added black pepper. But occasionally, there's a twist so good that the game reaches the other half of us who didn't play them with our grandma and just had to sit there and listen to her talk about the war. The last time that happened was The Crew, and this year it happened again with Cat in the Box. The mustard in the mash of Cat in the Box is that you decide the color of your card when you play it. If you want your 4 to be blue, you say it's blue, then put a token on the board to show that. Because like any trick-taking game, there is only one blue 4 in the deck. No one else can play it later. The board makes it really easy to follow because you can see what cards are left. You know if someone can beat you by playing a higher card. In normal trick-taking games, you'd have to count cards to know that, which I hate because I can never remember anything when my mind's so busy thinking of ways to solve world hunger and be a better friend. Once you've seen your hand, you bet on how many tricks you think you can win. I love this mechanism because winning or losing one trick is nothing. It's 1 point, I don't care. But trying to pull off a perfect round by winning exactly 3 tricks makes you care about every trick. Do you push to win them early? And once you have them, it's just as hard trying to lose tricks. And when every player around the table has conflicting bets, your epic victory is someone else's heartbreak. It's funny betting on yourself. It's like making a New Year's resolution to eat healthier and then hearing your own voice order a burger. Afterwards feeling like it was achievable, but only if you'd been someone else entirely. If you win your bet, your prize depends on what's happening on the board because you score for your largest group of tokens. So the whole game you're being tempted into playing bad cards just so you can grow a jackpot that you're unlikely to win because you're playing bad cards. You're so busy weaving the basket you're going to keep your eggs in that you forget to feed your chickens. To make your bet come true, the game gives you plenty of rope to trip yourself up with. If you don't want to follow suit, you can say, I don't have any more greens. But later, if the only space left is green and you said you didn't have any, you've created a paradox because you can't play a card. It ends the round and you get minus points for every trick you've won. It's such a great punishment because you spend the game terrified of having enough room left for your cards or hoping someone else causes a paradox before you do. I find most trick-taking games to be too subtle, so I love the way that Cat in the Box hits you over the head, just like old grandma did. In horse racing games, it's hard to give players a feeling of control over what is, in real life, a passive experience. But too much control and you lose the suspense and excitement that you get from not knowing what's going to happen. Longshot, the dice game, gives you the twists of a horse race by having you roll the dice every turn. One of them says which horse moves forward, the other by how many spaces. You can't predict what will be rolled, it's pure luck. But that doesn't make sense either because in horse racing, some of the horses are faster than others. The favorites with better odds should have an advantage. And they do. When a horse moves, it pulls other horses with them, shown on their card, and the favorites get pulled more often. Luck can still grant the underdog a surprise victory, but it's more likely that the favorites will finish first. Just like in real life, if you bet on a long shot, you'll get way more money if they win. So you have to decide between playing it safe on a favorite or betting on an upset. The player who ends up with the most money wins the game. Every turn, you take an action related to the horse that just moved. So you could place a bet on it, buy it to get its special ability, or cross off its number on your concession stand. And this is a little bingo card that you're trying to fill up to get special powers. And these are the big moves of the game, such as taking more money for betting on horses with. Or you can influence the race itself by moving horses forward, or even backward. There's a lot more thought in this game than you'd expect, but it still captures the essence of gambling. Every roll you're begging the gods to shine on your horse. For light family fun, I'd still opt for Camel Up, but for something more involved with less luck and more strategy, I'll be keeping Longshot. I do have one complaint, which is there are way too many ways to pull the horses back, which makes the race feel like it's never going to end, and it's worse the more players you play with. You can alleviate it by crossing out one of those bonuses before you play, but I'm baffled how it made it through playtesting as it is. And don't be fooled by the 1 to 8 player listing, this is a 3 to 6 player game. But that's more than enough for me. Carcassonne is one of the original pillars of modern board games, in which you build a map of medieval France and compete to control cities and farms. And now, after 22 years, they've made a cooperative version of it. In Mists over Carcassonne, your favourite French town is overcome by fog, which is the amount of jeopardy we can handle right now. We're not going to stop wanting to play this game because of an unprecedented global fog. The fog brings with it ghosts, and if the town becomes so overrun with ghosts that you run out of them, you lose the game. Meanwhile, to win the game, you've got to collaboratively build a great town and score loads of points for it before the ghosts get you. It's the classic cooperative game dilemma. Short-term firefighting to stop yourself from dying versus the long-term need to get your coursework done, because what's the point in even being alive if you don't finish your degree in media studies? And that conflict is present in every tile you take. Do you add it to your perfect city to score you the most points, or do you use it to trample the threat? If you ignore either one for too long, you'll lose the game. The fog works like its own type of region, and if you're able to close it off, like finishing a city, you can get rid of all the ghosts. But it's really hard to do. Another way to get rid of them is when you score a road or a city, instead of taking the points you'd get, you can remove 3 ghosts. But that goes against everything us gamers stand for. It's like asking a kid if they want another Christmas present or to sponsor a donkey instead. I want my points, Carcassonne. It still feels like Carcassonne. Deciding where to place your tile is still a challenge, but now you get to share it and help each other spot good openings. And because the threat of the fog is built into the tiles you're placing, there's no admin to slow you down between turns like most other co-op games. It's great, and it makes me feel stupid for thinking it wouldn't be. It's like they've put a hat on Beyonce. And the hat's nice, but it wasn't ever gonna look bad, was it? Caesar is the best 2-player game of the year. It's hard to look at this board, made in Microsoft PowerPoint 98 with a CD-ROM of clip art, and imagine it's one of the best games of the year, but I'm asking you to try. You play as Caesar and Pompey, carving up ancient Rome by sending your legions to occupy regions for political reasons. It starts as a polite buffet of Europe. I'll have a bit of Sicily, they'll have a bit of Sardinia. I'll have some Crete, they'll have some more Sardinia. And then you freak out that you're not going to get any Sardinia. You want to focus on the places you're trying to win, but if you don't fight back, you're letting them get theirs for no effort. Like winning an auction for £1 because no one else is bidding. And yet by retaliating, you're escalating the problem with another whack to the piñata so it explodes quicker. Because once the border is filled up, the player with the most strength wins the region. Each token is double-sided and you place them on the borders between 2 regions. So every decision is two-handed. By going hard in one, you have to phone it in next door. It's a neat example of how you can't be everything everywhere all at once, which may or may not be the message of a film I haven't watched. You both have equal claim to the board, the same bag of tokens. What separates the winner from the loser is their approach and how you use these bonus tokens, which can increase your hand size, giving you more options for attack, or kill an opponent's token, helping you to win an important region. You get them by finishing a region, so you're not just keeping an eye on attack and defense, but grabbing the right bonuses, because taken at the right time, they can win you the game. I also really like Blitzkrieg, which came from the same designer a few years ago. They both managed to do so much with so little. Blitzkrieg is more cutthroat. You can bomb your opponent out of the game, whereas Caesar is classier, quicker, and a bit smarter. The game, that is. Not the guy. It couldn't even spot a knife coming. Ugh, how do I talk about Foundations of Rome? It is really inconvenient for someone who is vocal about not buying expensive overproduced Kickstarter games to find himself enjoying an expensive overproduced Kickstarter game. It's like when one of those obnoxious "I have a great marriage" type guys turns out to be cheating on his wife. Here's my "I'm not actually a bad guy" justification video. In Foundations of Rome, you are building the city of Rome on a shared board. And that in itself is a breath of fresh air. Every city building game of recent memory, Quadropolis, My City, Tiny Town, Santa Monica, Acropolis, involve building your own city in your own personal area, which is fine, but That's not how cities work. I want people to get in my way. It's about connection. That human touch that you get from shoulder barging a tourist to the ground for walking too slowly. The other huge surprise of this game is how streamlined it is. Never has a box this big contained a game so svelte. The product is a parody of modern board games with extravagant miniatures, plastic trays, and metal coins, but somehow the gameplay harks back to the early 2000s, to Carcassonne and Ticket to Ride, in its interactivity, its punchiness, and its purity. Every turn you have 3 options. You can buy new plots of land from the market, you can build on plots you already own, and you can collect income so you've got more money to spend. Simple options, but it's always a tough decision. If a plot next to one you already own is for sale, you want to buy it so you can build a bigger, better building. But how badly do you need it? Because when cards appear in the market, they cost 10 coins. Whereas if you wait for other cards to sell, the price will come down. It's a nail-biting dilemma. No one wants to pay full price, but the fear of someone else buying it is huge. The worst feeling is when a card comes up that you really need and you can't afford to buy it. So you have to get income first and hope it will be there on your next turn. But why are you taking income when you haven't put any commercial buildings down yet to increase your income? So really, you should put a building down, then take income, then buy the plot you want, if you're being efficient. The best time to do everything is last turn. You feel behind at all times. That's what building a city on a shared board does to you. You're desperate to grab land before those other bastards can get their hands on it. It's not just about taking big areas, it's about profiting from other people's buildings. These civic buildings score points based on what they're adjacent to. For example, this one will score points from any residential buildings next to it. So much of the game is watching how the city evolves and spotting opportunities. You're the devious kid at school befriending the study group that will get you the best grades. It's the perfect level of interaction for a game. You care about what everyone else is doing, that every turn is interesting, but you can't destroy their hard work. As a design, it's one of the most refreshing games I've played in years. It's in the same caliber as Ticket to Ride, so it's heartbreaking that they've made it this exclusive product that's 4 times the size of Ticket to Ride and 4 times the price. A game this good should be played by everyone. And what's more frustrating is this game could be made from nothing but cardboard and still be great. And if you buy it, you're encouraging this business model, so more publishers will do it. I'm encouraging it by giving this game oxygen on the channel. I don't know what the answer is. I just want to highlight the best games of the year, and this is one of them. I've never owned a racing game. That's not strictly true. I've owned many racing games, up until the point that I played them and realized I didn't want to own them anymore. They're either so random and lucky that I didn't feel like I had any agency, or they're so complicated and slow that it felt like racing snails. So Heat, Pedal to the Metal, is not only the first racing game I've ever recommended on this channel, it's the only racing game I would even play. You each have a car and you're driving it around a track trying to cross the finish line first. It's a race. I don't know why you're making me explain this to you. You know what a race is. The way you move is by playing cards, and you can play as many cards as the gear you're in. If you're in first gear, you're moving slowly, you can only play 1 card. If you're in fourth, you'll go much faster, which you don't want when you're going round corners, otherwise you'll take heat. Heat is the core of this game. It's the heart that those other Tin Man racing games were missing. Whenever you do something reckless, you add heat to your deck. So if you change gears too fast, you take heat. If you drive through a corner too fast, you take heat. You're pushing your engine to its limits, and it will come back to haunt you, because when they turn up in your hand, they clog it up with useless cards. So you could be on the home straight and not have enough good cards to make the most of it. When the race starts, you feel in control because your deck is trusty and predictable. But the more you push it, the more it will let you down. It's like, well, it's like a car. Isn't that cute? When the feel of a game is best described by its own analogy, that's when you know it's good. That sounded like a joke, but I'm being serious. Take me seriously, I have grey hair. But taking heat, like a hangover in your 20s, It's not so punishing that you don't want to keep doing it. You need to take it to win the game. It's all about how much and when. And riding that balance is so much fun. Looking at each tequila shot and deciding if it's worth the long-term repercussions to get a little boost right now. And you'll take it because of peer pressure. You don't want to ever get left behind from the pack because then you won't be able to slipstream. If you end up behind another car, you can move 2 spaces for free. So you're constantly trying to weasel into position to piggyback by predicting where the drivers in front of you will end up. You all start the game with the same deck of cards, so you need those tiny advantages like slipstreaming to win. You will stay neck and neck the whole race, but it's the player who conserves the right cards, who only takes heat when it's worth it, that will pull ahead in the final lap. Speaking of taking heat when it's not worth it, I no longer think that Dune Imperium is overrated, okay? Just leave me alone. For me, the best board games are the ones that make you feel like you're in their world, and they don't do that through intricate miniatures or artwork, and certainly not through flavor text. Those things consign you to the sidelines. The feeling has to come from the gameplay, from the pressures that you face and the decisions that you make as the protagonist of your story. Hidden movement games are brilliant at that because you run around a map trying to outthink the people hunting you, always feeling moments away from being caught. It's Kiss Chase for those of us who had to retire due to an exclusivity deal. But nothing takes you out of a feeling quite like having to check the rulebook to answer another question. Sniper Elite manages to place you in its world, make you feel like you're a sniper stalking an army base, with a lean rule set, which is why it's my new favorite hidden movement game. As the sniper, you must decide what approach to take. If you run at speed, then you'll make noise, alerting nearby enemies, but if you're too slow and stealthy, you might not reach your objective in time and lose. You can shoot enemies to get them out of your way, but you have to weigh up whether it's worth it because you'll be giving the other team clues on where you are. All things that you'd have to consider if you were in that situation yourself. Of course, I would have died getting caught up in my parachute way before this bit. And it's no less authentic for the hunters, albeit a completely different experience. They feel in the dark for much of the game, trying to systematically sweep the map and use scraps of information to catch the sniper. It's a less iconic role. You're the henchman in a James Bond film sent to soak up some bullets, but in this film, the bad guys can win. I love discussing theories with my teammates about where the sniper is. It's a mixture of hard evidence and trying to get in their head. Would they really try to creep right through us and risk getting caught, or did they take the long way round? And like any good film, it doesn't outstay its welcome, like most other hidden movement games. To learn more about what makes it special, watch my full review, link below. It's rare to find a good game these days that is cutthroat and vicious. It's not something that gets designed anymore, which is why my favorite game was designed in 2012 and resurrected in 2022. In Libertalia Winds of Galecrest, you play as pirates fighting over loot and trying to win the most gold. Every day, the pirate fleet divides up their bounty, so you send a crew member from your ship to make your claim. You all pick a character at the same time, then reveal, and they're placed in order of rank. The highest will get first dibs, taking a chest that's worth 5 gold. The lowest ranked character could be left with a cursed relic that will lose them money. But first, your characters take actions, such as the brute that will kill the highest ranked character before they can even take their loot, which is great when that's not you. Eat the rich, I say, until I'm the one that's rich, and then I say, ooh, the nurses are greedy, aren't they? It might seem mean and chaotic, and it is, but it's not without warning. You see, every player has an identical hand of character cards. You know the other players all have a brute that could kill you, and that factors into your decision every time you pick a card. You can also see what loot is available, and you know where you are on the tiebreaker track. All that's left is to guess what your friends will do, but if I could do that, I would have picked friends who like playing board games and not going to work every day. In true pirate fashion, there are cutlasses flying everywhere, and the challenge is in dancing through the brawl unscathed, picking a few pockets along the way. You will feel the pointy end of a saber occasionally. That's the life you signed up for. And when death is expected, getting beaten to a bloody pulp feels like a victory. Part of the magic of Libertalia is that amidst that chaos, you can still carve out a strategy. There's a real joy to be had from planning when to play your characters so they complement each other. When you build an engine that gets you 3 gold every turn, it feels like a remarkable achievement, like you've just set up a successful business during the Blitz. I've got way more to say about this brilliant game, but rather than repeat myself, please go and watch my full review of it from last year, link below. Those are my top 10 board games of 2022. To find out my next 10 favorites of last year, become a patron of the channel on Patreon to get my newsletter. And to see more videos like this, please subscribe. I'm John Perkis, thanks for watching.